they knew what I was telling them was going to be the truth. I mean, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to tell you everything's going to happen back here. 4 o'clock, the guy's going to come in here and they're going to fingerprint you. Shortly after that, we're going to allow you to take a shower. And then we're going to put you in free work clothes, let you dress in free work clothes. Free work clothes would be the clothes you and I would wear. 5, 6 o'clock, whatever your request for last meal, they'll bring it in, and you'll sit there and eat your last meal. During that time, if you need anything else, just ask. You need some more juice, punch, or whatever else we got back here, just ask. Sometimes they have strange requests. Within reason, I'm gonna get it for you.
Give me one of those requests.
One, man, I sure like to smoke a doobie right now. Well, that's not gonna happen. Guy with the key, he opens the door, swings the door open. There's another correctional officer behind him and another one behind me. So as soon as he does, he follows me in. Then the other correctional officers follow right in behind him. So there'll be 2 in front of the inmate, and then the other 3 right behind him. I tell them jump up on the gurney, which then I automatically.
It's only a few steps from the cell.
If I would say no more than 10 steps, if that much, I would immediately go around to the gurney because I always took care of the left leg. So as soon as he laid down, I took care of the left leg. The other person was in front with me would take care of the right. The 3 that fell in behind, one would take care of the right arm, the other one would take care of the left arm, and the other one would be there in case the inmate, once he lays down, if he had a response of trying to get back up, his job was to hold his shoulders down. You're not, once you're up there, you're up there. Within that time, us 4 people would have him done. Probably within about 15 seconds, he'd be strapped down. That quick. Because we all knew exactly where our straps were and what we were supposed to do. That time, the process. We trained on it. It's the last time you're going to see, I'm going to see him with his eyes open. Because after the execution's done and the process went, and then they called the doctor in to pronounce him dead, and everybody leaves, my job begins again because I have to go back in there. And that's also kind of difficult because here you sit with this individual 8 or 10 hours all day long. And now the last thing you're doing is removing those straps. The straps have to be removed and put them on another gurney for the funeral home. And then you didn't think about none of this while you're doing this, the procedure. None of this. You don't put those emotions out there. You do the job. You go home.
You did how many executions, roughly?
It was over 125. 120, somewhere over 120. It was a bunch. We got to the point where, especially after I think I promoted to captain in 90, we were doing 2 a week. And that was getting tiresome.
And what happened to you then?
Back when they brought in Caller Faye, I stayed back there with her. Now, definitely that was the first female that we were fixing to execute. I remember one thing so vividly, that it was an hour before, and I was standing there, and the chaplain was standing there, and she looked at me and she goes, "Thank you, Captain Allen, for everything you've done." I said, "You're welcome." That's all I could say. And what else am I going to say? I'm fixing to strap you down another hour. Which we went, procedure and everything went just the way it was supposed to, She was pronounced dead. I went back in there and I took the straps off, put her, on the gurney, and let's go. We locked everything up and went about our business, and everything was fine. I had a little shop in the back, and it was 6 o'clock, and the news come on over the radio and started again. And for some reason, just out of the blue, hearing it triggered me seeing her, and I started shaking. Oh, what's wrong? And then
How badly did you shake?
It was a shake. It was a shake like I couldn't. Why am I shaking? And then I could see I was sweating, and tears. All of a sudden, and this is hurting. I remembered her. This is 2 days afterwards. I remembered her execution. Hers wasn't no different than anybody else, but it was hers. And then I started actually visualizing the other inmates. As you asked me, did you look in their eyes? I could see them. I could actually see them in the holding cell again. One right after another. And it seemed like it was just, my wife, what's wrong with you? And I don't know. I need to talk to somebody. And the first person I could think of to call was Carol, Chaplain Picking. He come over to the house, and we sat out on the swing, and I started coming down, and he says, what's wrong? And I told him. And then I looked at Carol and I said, I can't do it no more. That's it. I'm done. I can't go back there anymore.
Could it be that you thought that this was not yourself, but maybe it was your real self, that moment?
That's a good possibility.
What's really deep inside of
Yes.
you came out.
That's very, from that point on, I've had a different outlook in life. If executions was the law, then I was going to make sure that it was done professionally with integrity. After qualifying, and I was a pro capital punishment. After qualifying, after all this, until this day, 11 years later, no, sir. Nobody has a right to take another life. I don't care if it's the law. And it's so easy to change the law.
I don't want to sound like an evil person, but I'm so glad I went to the execution. I really am. I fought with myself about going. I reserved the seat so I could be there, but I'm glad I went. I'm really glad I went. It really did something to me.
Yeah, what did it do?
I don't know what happened, but I immediately after the execution, I felt like that saying, a huge weight had been lifted. I actually could take a deep breath. My heart didn't ache as much. But I remember walking in and thinking, this looks like a boy. I had built this huge monster, evil, murdering monster in my head, and he was just a boy. He was just a boy laying on that gurney. When I walked in, he looked at me, and he looked away, and he did a double take. Same thing Jason Burkett did in court. I look like my mom. I look a lot like my mother.
And what did he say?
He forgave us. He forgave us. Yeah. And I was upset when I walked in. I was crying. My whole family. We didn't want to see someone die. No one should have to go through that. But we were there for my mother, and my brother. And we were crying. And when he said he forgave us.
For what?
For the atrocity brought against him. And then he said he's ready to go. I heard his mother cry. And they gave him the injection. He gasped for air 4 times. I watched his shirt, his heart beating on his shirt. I watched it till it stopped. And it stopped at 6:14. 1 tear fell down his eye. 1 tear. And he was gone. And it was over.
And the prospect of someone who is going to be locked away for life without parole, would that satisfy you?
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
So it would be definitely an alternative. Because death penalty sounds a little bit too much like Old Testament, the wrath of God. And Jesus probably would not have been an advocate of capital punishment.
Probably not. But some people just don't deserve to live.
Can I say something?
Please.
I know on July the 1st is when they executed Michael, and I knew Michael pretty well.
Yeah.
And I kept up with, I have every kind of clipping and website thing I have on him and Jason. I have like a whole locker box full. Mm-hmm. So I know as much about him as anybody. And Michael was just like Jason. They were both young, and whatever they did or didn't do, I don't know. I wasn't there. But Michael was just a young kid, and I know when they executed him. I know his last words and everything else, and I know by executing Michael, I don't think it brought any of those people back, and I don't think it deterred anything. I don't think it deterred anybody out there. As much publicized as it was, it did not deter anything, and I really did not believe that it solved anything by taking another life. And it hurt me when it come time for his execution. I knew it was going to be about 6 o'clock. It's 6 or usually a few minutes after 6 p.m. And I was on my knees at my bunk, for Michael, praying for Michael, and a feeling come over me. Right about 5 or 10 minutes after 6, a feeling come over me that's very, very hard to explain. It was like I felt the loss of what used to be my son's best friend. I felt that. I felt that pain whenever they killed him. But I just wish the family members would know that how much that I hurt for their loss. That's very important. And Michael never. That's what upset them, because Michael never tried to reach out to him. I wished I could and say I'm sorry.
Yeah. Melissa, let me address one thing. Among death row inmates, there's such a phenomenon like death row groupies, the same way rock stars have groupies. And you have seen women like that?
I have seen women like that, in fairness. I've also seen women who are married to death row inmates and truly committed relationships that I believe are not disingenuous and I believe come from their heart. You know, some people are just supposed to be together, whether there's a cage and lawman between you. I believe that. I mean, I do believe that there's a fair amount of women who want attention, who want media coverage, who seek out infamous men. I mean, like Scott Peterson gets 100 letters a day on death row in California. That's ridiculous.
He murdered his pregnant wife.
Yes.
Is that correct, that case? Yeah. A good-looking man.
Good-looking man.
However, Jason is not an ugly man either. Describe him to us, please.
Like physically?
Yes. You only have touched his hand. Describe his hands to us.
They're a lot bigger than mine. I'll start there. I have really
Describe
tiny
them.
hands. Jason, he holds hands funny, and he always holds my hand kind of like that as opposed to intertwined, so he holds on to me. And I just know that his hands are massive. Because he wears a ring size 11. Our wedding rings is an 11 and a half. And I wear a 4. So he can totally cup my hand.
Were you allowed to touch each other, hug each other, exchange rings?
No. I still can't get a ring.
And you were separated by a glass wall, or?
Just like this right here, except for we had a phone, and it was solid right here, solid glass.
But when she comes for visits, are you allowed to hug her?
I am now. After we married, I'm allowed to hug her. I'm allowed to give her a kiss before and after visit.
Yeah.
We're allowed to hold hands on the table and have contact and
But
speak.
of course, with a guard present.
As close as you are to me.
And you would like to have children?
Yes, sir.
How would that happen? What sort of option is there?
I want 50 children. She wants 2. So, I mean, we have to work on this. I want children for different reasons. I want children with her specifically because I love her. I want to be with her. I want to give her something she'll always have with me.
I'm under the impression, seeing you now, that you became pregnant only a few days after we met your husband.
You guys met him on the 18th of October?
I think so, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I believe my baby was made on the 23rd of October.
Right after we saw your husband.
23rd or 24th.
You went into action.
So to speak.
And the father of the baby is?
Legally, will be Jason, yes.
And it is Jason, biologically, legally,
I can't
in
say
every
that.
single sense. Since you are not allowed to do more than touching hands, how do you become pregnant? There's a mystery.
Yeah, it's kind of a mystery. There's people involved that I don't want to mention.
No, we will not imply anyone, but I have to speculate. Is there such a thing like contraband entering prisons, like, let's say, drugs, cell phones, illegal messages? There seems to be something the other way round. Contraband from the prison to the outside, and you became pregnant.
Well,
Can we formulate it like this?
We prefer to say that I was artificially inseminated.
Do you have a name for the boy?
Well, we came up with Easton Aaron.
Can you show us? I think there's a face. Can you point it out?
It's right there. If you actually can see it close enough, you can tell my baby has my strong jaw. You live on through your children, and the love that you put into them projects to the world. my parents were both gone. And I had this big hole in my heart. And I realized that what you do is you take all of that love and you give it back. I mean, nothing else matters.
I actually have this shirt tacked up on my wall.
Can I see the shirt? Can you turn it around?
I just make sure, and somebody told me about the live your dash. And that's really after all this that I went through and quit and everything. I've heard the stories telling me of live your dash. How do you gonna live your dash? And I didn't understand, what are you talking about dash? And it's on your tombstone. You got your birth date, and you got the day that you deceased, and you got that little dash in the middle. That's your life right there. That's everything between, from the time you was born, from the time you die. How are you gonna live your dash? And that's where I'm at now. I'm gonna live my dash and make sure that everything, try to make everything right for the family, everybody. Hold still and watch the birds. And you once you get up into your life like that, and once you feel good about your life, you do start watching what the birds do. You know, what the ducks are doing, like the hummingbirds. Why there's so many of them.